The Prince of Penrith's Last Ride. March 30th, 2016, Western Sydney. A Harley-Davidson rumbles down Stafford Street in Kingswood and rolls into a quiet driveway. Sitting on it is Michael Davey. He shuts off the engine, probably thinking about nothing more than getting inside his home. What he doesn't know is that the next 28 seconds will be the last moments he ever lives. To most people around the area, Michael blended in. Just another tough local guy who rode big bikes and kept to himself. But anyone who understood the darker side of Sydney knew exactly who he was. Michael wasn't just a Rebels member, he was known as the Prince of Penrith, a man with serious pull inside Australia's most feared outlaw motorcycle club. And he wasn't playing small either. Behind the scenes, he was running a multi-million-dollar criminal operation. Drug shipments worth hundreds of thousands a month, protection rackets, and money trails so hidden even expert accountants would struggle to untangle them. But here's the part that makes this story hit even harder. The person behind his murder wasn't a rival gang trying to settle a score. It wasn't some old enemy returning for revenge. Michael Davey was taken out by his own men, the people he trusted, the brothers he believed would die for him. When brotherhood becomes a death sentence, the Rebels motorcycle gang isn't like most criminal groups. They've always moved by their own old-school rules. Loyalty first, loyalty last. You put on that patch, and the brotherhood becomes your entire world. But by 2016, that image of unbreakable unity was starting to fracture. Michael had grown into the club's main weapon, the guy whose presence alone kept rivals in check. But in a world built on power, rising too fast comes with a price. His influence didn't just make enemies outside the club, it stirred jealousy inside it. And that's where Jason Palmer and David Rumble stepped in. Investigators believe these two weren't just thinking about shaking things up. They were quietly planning how to take Michael out of the picture altogether. Just pause on that. These weren't outsiders or hired guns. These were men who had ridden next to Michael, stood with him in clubhouses, and lived the same dangerous life. Yet somewhere along the line, the bond snapped and they decided he had to disappear. Later, phone records showed their contact ramping up in the months before the hit. Detectives following the money trail found unusual cash movements, exactly the kind that makes investigators lean in and start connecting dots. But what really closed the door on any doubt were the encrypted messages. Cold, direct, no code words to hide behind, just straight talk about the Michael problem. That was it. The moment the brotherhood they claimed to protect turned into the weapon used to betray him. The perfect execution. What happened that March evening wasn't random, rushed, or sloppy. It was the kind of hit that only comes from someone who knows exactly what they're doing. The shooter had been in position for more than an hour, watching the driveway with a clear line of sight. And the moment Michael's Harley turned onto the street at 7:43 p.m. sharp, the plan kicked in. Several shots, close range, no second guessing, no chance for Michael to react. What made the whole thing even more disturbing was how perfectly timed it all was. The killer didn't just guess, he knew Michael's routine down to the minute. He knew which way Michael usually rode home, the exact time he tended to pull in, even the side of the driveway he preferred when parking his bike. That kind of inside knowledge doesn't come from surveillance videos or lucky guesses. It comes from someone close enough to watch his habits without raising a single red flag. Within minutes, the entire Kingswood Street was lit up with flashing lights. Paramedics rushed in, police cars crowded the road. Neighbors stood outside trying to make sense of what had just happened. But despite everything, there was no saving him. Michael Davey, the Prince of Penrith, was gone. And with his death, something bigger died too. The belief that loyalty inside the Rebels still meant protection. The hit proved that even the highest-ranked brother wasn't safe from the people standing beside him. The code of silence meets modern surveillance. Here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Palmer and Rumble genuinely believed they'd pulled off the perfect hit. In their minds, the old Rebels rulebook would protect them. The code of silence, the fear, the loyalty. No witnesses, no snitches, no trail. They thought everything would stay buried under years of brotherhood and intimidation. What they didn't expect was Strike Force Osprey. Investigating a murder inside a motorcycle gang is like trying to crack open Fort Knox. These guys are trained from day one to keep their mouths shut. Not for the courts, not for the cops, nobody. Breaking the code doesn't just bring legal trouble, it brings consequences they all understand too well. The investigators knew this, and they knew chasing eyewitnesses was pointless. So they shifted their strategy. They went digital. They went patient. 18 months of quiet surveillance, phone taps, financial tracking, and deep-dive digital forensics. Slowly, steadily, they built a case from shadows the rebels didn't realize they were leaving behind. The break came from the last place the gang expected: their own encrypted messages. The same systems they trusted to hide everything ended up exposing them. Palmer slipped first. Phone taps caught him dropping hints, talking about solving problems and bragging about how his position in the club was improving. Investigators noticed something else too: his spending. Right after the murder, he suddenly had new toys, new luxuries, the kind of cash flow that practically shouts, "I just got paid." Rumble took longer to crack. He was calculated, quiet, and careful, but numbers don't lie. Banking records showed steady, structured transfers in the weeks before the hit, and surveillance footage placed his vehicle near Michael's home 3 different times in the months leading up to the murder. Clear signs of scouting the area, and then came the final nail. Michael's own security cameras picked up partial plates and timestamps that lined up perfectly with everything investigators had uncovered. By late 2017, the case wasn't just solid, it was unbreakable. Every thread led straight to Palmer and Rumble. Not a single loose end. Justice and the fallout. February 15, 2018. Before sunrise, police teams hit multiple locations across Sydney at the same time. Palmer and Rumble were taken into custody, charged with conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder, and being part of a criminal organization. What came next was a long, cold, and unforgiving trial. Former Rebels members stepped forward under witness protection, breaking the code they'd lived by for years. They spoke about the rising tensions inside the club, the threats aimed at Michael, and even the celebrations some members held after he was gone. The kind of reaction that shows exactly how they felt about their so-called brother. After 4 full days of jury discussions, the verdict came back: guilty on all counts. Palmer was sentenced to life with a minimum of 25 years. Rumble got life with at least 28 years, those extra years reflecting the role he played as the one pulling most of the strings. But here's the sad truth: none of this fixed anything. Michael's death didn't bring peace. It didn't stabilize the gang. It didn't solve any internal problems. Instead, the fallout made everything worse. More violence, more bodies, more families ripped apart. Palmer and Rumble thought they were removing an obstacle. What they actually did was blow a hole straight through the rebels' structure, creating a power vacuum that exploded into dozens of smaller, more unpredictable and violent splinter groups. The aftermath. The rebels' MC was never the same again. If someone like Michael Davey, one of their most respected and feared members, could be taken out by the very men he trusted, then the message was clear. Nobody inside the club was untouchable. Paranoia spread through every layer of the organization. Members started second-guessing each other. Motives were questioned. Even normal conversations suddenly felt loaded and dangerous. And that kind of internal collapse doesn't go unnoticed. Rival clubs had been waiting for a moment like this. The Comancheros, the Hells Angels, and several other outlaw groups immediately spotted the cracks and moved in. What followed was a wave of street violence that many say is still echoing through Sydney's underworld today. Michael Davey's story is more than just a gang hit. It's a warning wrapped in betrayal. It shows that in organizations built on loyalty, the deadliest threat often comes from the inside. And it proves that no matter how carefully someone thinks they've covered their tracks, modern investigators have tools that outlaw groups never saw coming. When Michael rode into his driveway that March evening, he believed his status protected him. He didn't know his own brothers had already signed off on his death. That's the brutal truth behind the driveway hit that changed Sydney forever.